liberty. He used to believe in something would happen. Meals for liberty. Gnostic sex cult, building his own world. The Gnostic sex cult, unhinged from reality, totally lost in what can we do? But mock him relentlessly. It's not a Gnostic sex cult, James. No, it's not. Stop lying to your audience. No, it's not. It's not Gnostic, James. Grip Mary Nardini tells us queer liberation means the annihilation of capitalism. Catch up, James. Whiteness means capitalism. Queer theory hates capitalism. Whiteness means capitalism. Queer theory hates capitalism. Whiteness means capitalism. It's all about capitalism. Everyone knows it's capitalism. The socialists know it's capitalism. Wake up, James. It's capitalism. Whoa. The socialists know it's capitalism. Wake up, James. It's capitalism. It's all about capitalism. Everyone knows it's capitalism. The socialists know it's capitalism. Wake up, James. It's capitalism. It's capitalism. To pocket all that money from the mills for liberty. The left hates capitalism, but James won't admit it. He refuses to believe queer theory stabilizes normativity, gender binary, and the nuclear family. But James blocks the truth, smears people who try to show him, creates an echo chamber for himself to reinforce his fantasy. To believe in something, what happens for liberty? Gnostic sex cult, building its own world. The Gnostic sex cult, unhinged from reality, he's totally lost it. What can we do but mock him relentlessly?
Well, hello, fellow Gnostic sex cultists. Happy Monday. Oh, my hair is all aflutter. Oh, whatever. Welcome to The Cult. The Cult is a show that I stream Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time on YouTube, on X, the platform formerly known as Twitter, and on the other one, Rumble. There it is. Oh, I forgot to put a notification in the Telegram group that I'm live. Oh no. I suck on Mondays. Please forgive me. Hang on. If you want to join the Telegram group, you can go to t.me/unwokex. There we are. I have now notified the Telegram people that I am live in some way, shape, or form. Hopefully that went through. I don't even know. Nothing is working today. It's been a crazy day. But I started on time, and so no one can take that away from me. I look academic today. I've been fucking around with my camera. See, I've been told that, like, I don't know. We're gonna talk about that. Hang on. Yay! Okay, it went. No, why is my Telegram not updating? Why does technology hate everyone on Mondays? Is it Mercury retrograde? It can't possibly be Mercury retrograde. Come on. Thank you, John. I appreciate you. John says I look pretty. All right. Well, if it didn't go out to the Telegram group, it's not my fault. Wait, no, there it is. Yay! Well, it may have gone out twice now. Anyway, that's right. I'm always on time. Whether or not I start at 5 o'clock, I am always on time. All right, guys, we got a full agenda to get through today, and I got a lot of stuff to talk about. But I want to show you what we're going to be watching today for the back half of the stream. I've got some other stuff to talk about first. We are going to be watching, a taxpayer-funded panel. from the California Department of Food and Agriculture. And this is an LGBTQ Pride Month panel. This got uploaded to YouTube just 4 days ago. It is 75 views. And you guys know that I love nothing more than when we find just like random stuff that no one has seen that gets uploaded to these obscure YouTube channels. Although there are over 11,000 people subscribed to the YouTube channel for the California Department of Food and Agriculture. Who would have seen that coming? I wouldn't have seen that coming. Maybe did they buy their subscribers like I'm accused of all the time? No, I bet they had some big event or something. Who knows? But we're going to be watching this panel, and I actually don't have that much context for it because literally all it says is CDFA LGBTQ plus Pride Month panel hosted by the CDFA's DEI committee on June 18th, 2024. Well, it's funny because it's not even just that like there's a lot of people on this Zoom call, but that they're in a room in real life with these trans pride flags, and then occasionally they bring in people on the Zoom for further discussion. So I don't know what they're going to be talking about. Like, what does queer have to do with food and agriculture? I guess we're going to find out. Well, we do know that socialists do believe that farmers started private property, right? So I guess we'll find out. So that is what we're going to be watching today, guys. I do have a couple, well, not even, I just have other stuff I want to talk about. It's my show. I'll do what I want. And I want to talk about some other stuff. And I really shouldn't do this. I really shouldn't do this, but I'm going to. I really shouldn't do this. All of Big Tech's fans can send out the bat signal to him and let him know to start up his stream. You guys, I'm giving you a 30-second warning. All of the Big Tech supporters that are watching right now, go tell him. I'm about to talk about him. I am. I'm doing the ill-advised thing of talking about him. But actually, like, what I want to talk about is actually less about big tech and it's more about some other issues. Because as it turns out, like, sometimes I like to give sage life advice on this channel. Every once in a while, I like to give sage life advice. And yeah, well, don't worry, Mila. We're going to be talking about this too. Don't worry. I have a whole agenda. We're going to be talking about this. We're going to be talking about Nick Fuentes. We're going to be talking about the thief, Melanie Bennett. Melanie has been stealing my content for a minute, I have to say. And so now she's finally been called out on it, and she didn't like that at all. And then we're going to watch the video, but I want to talk about this first because, you know, last night I was I want to talk about the idea of forgiveness. This is actually, Big Tech is going to say this is all about him because he thinks that everything is about him. This is actually not as much about him as it is just ideas I have about life. And I am using him because he uses everyone else around him as little puppets in his game. I am using him to illustrate larger life lessons that I think are important. And yeah, I said maybe I wasn't going to do this, but you know, he doesn't really like follow any sort of ethical guideline either. And so why should I? So last night I sent Big Tech this message. And I knew full well he was going to blast it all over his stream because that's completely and entirely predictable. And I know it's a little bit small on the screen. If you can't read it, it says, I don't know if you'll believe this, but this was never what I wanted, and I'm sorry things went down like they did. I felt like I had no choice. I didn't plan to make any more I don't plan to make any more content about you. He's going to think this is about him, but it's really not. And I hope you move on too. No matter how you feel about me, I don't wish you ill, and I hope you find whatever you're looking for. Now, the reason that I sent this to him was because after he and I started beefing publicly, I had all these people kind of like reaching out to me. And a lot of them, well, I shouldn't say a lot. There were a few of them that gave me kind of access to his, like, these files that they keep on him. Because one of the things that Big Tech and I do have in common is we both have people on the internet who live to hate us, who live to just document anything that they can use against us, who live to go through every aspect of our lives and pick it apart and find things that are previously private that can be used against us. We do have that in common. And honestly, that was one of the reasons that I felt, I think, endeared to him, because I understand what it's like to be on the receiving end of that. And I actually understand what it's like to be on the receiving end of that a lot at a much larger scale than he does. And so after we started beefing publicly, people like reached out to me and they gave me access to these discords and these files and all of these things that they just amassed on him. And I'm sure a lot of this stuff came from Kiwi Farms, but I don't go on Kiwi Farms. And so, this was the first time I had seen some of this stuff. And I knew it existed, but I wasn't gonna go and look for it. And so last night I was looking through just some of the files that they have on him, and it's just like everything. I mean, it's like it's stuff he's done in his past, it's his family and his kids, it's property that I guess I don't know if he owns it or someone else owns it, but it's and the thing that really got me was they've made all these memes about him that are just horrible. Like like they're really awful things to do. And I was looking through all this, and obviously they gave me access to this information because they want me to use it against him. And they want me to drag him, and they want me to cause all sorts of problems, in exactly the same way he's done to me in the past several days. And I couldn't do it because I know those types of oh my god, I'm getting emotional. I know those types of files exist on me. And I know that where he's gotten a lot of the stuff that he's tried to use to embarrass me or humiliate me, I know he's gotten those from those same files. And, believe me, after some of the things that he's said about me, it was tempting for about half a second to really drag him, but I just couldn't do it. And as I was looking through these things, I was like, I just sat there and I got really sad. And I was like, no one deserves to have this done to them. No one. And it's not like me and him are the only people on the internet who have this done to them. Like everyone does. Nick Fuentes does. That you guys remember I have that Substack called Nick and I? It's like the whole idea of this Substack. And I have like 15 different like articles in my head. Like they're all written in my head that I want to write for that Substack. But the whole point of this is like I started this Substack a while ago called Nick and I Like a Love Story. And it's supposed to be like this kitschy way to talk about like what Nick Fuentes has gone through in terms of cancel culture, and to identify different themes that show up on the internet in terms of like what people have to experience and stuff like that. And that was honestly the intent about it. It's not actually really about Nick. It's not actually really about me. It's about what happens to people when you exist on the internet, because I never knew about any of this before I started being on the internet. And it's quite frankly really shocking, and it's quite frankly, like, to me, really toxic. And so, like, when I was going through this just, like, dossier that they have on him, just looking at all these memes that they've created and this, like, twisted stuff, it's just like I started to feel really bad. And so that's honestly when I sent this message, because I was sitting there going, I don't want to be a person that gets dragged into any of this. And it doesn't actually really matter what he's said or done about me. Um, like I just want to forgive, and I never ever ever want to be in a position of having to carry around that type of anger, because I just don't think it's okay. And so I really did get very sad about it. And you know when he brought this up on his show, and this is actually the first time I've watched him react to anything having to do with me, because I'm not gonna watch when he's I'm not gonna I'm just not gonna I'm just like I'm not going to engage in the stuff that he's clearly making just because he wants to hurt me. But I knew that this would get back to him, and I knew that he would talk about it, and I knew that, I knew all that. And so he seems to think that the reason that I sent this is because I'm asking for his forgiveness, and that's not the case. It's like, the reason I sent this is because I had made the decision to forgive him, and that's not even a decision that necessitates him doing anything. He can spit on it, he can mock it, he can make fun of it, but the reason that we forgive people is not because of them or how they'll react or how they won't react. The reason that we're supposed to forgive people is for ourselves. It's so that we don't carry around the burden of this. And I've seen so many people, and I really do mean this as a cautionary tale, guys, because all of you listening to this are on the internet, right? I have seen so many people get sucked into just the most toxic places on the internet, and it's absolutely destroyed them. It's destroyed their ability to interact with other people as human beings, and I never want to be that person. And so I decided to forgive him, and that's when I sent this message, and he thought I was asking for his forgiveness, but I'm not, because whether or not he forgives me is just, quite frankly, none of my business. It is none of my business. And I knew when I sent this message that he was going to pull it up on his screen and he was going to make fun of it. Um but I guess what I want to say to people is that you shouldn't allow fear of what other people are going to do to prevent you from releasing a burden for yourself. And so I don't I don't quite frankly care if he brings it up on his screen and makes fun of it, because me forgiving him has nothing to do with what he does or doesn't do from here. And so I think that that's kind of like why I really wanted to talk about this, because I think that's an important lesson for everyone. I think it's important for people to know that, you know, it's easy to get sucked into these toxic subcultures on the internet, and I think that he's had a lot of bullshit done to him, and I think that that's part of why he reacted the way he did to me. And because, when you have this stuff done to you over and over and over again, and it probably would, and it could have been anyone really. It didn't even matter if it was me or someone else. I think he would have done this to anyone. Because like when you've had so much toxic stuff done to you that you haven't kind of like let go of, I think it can be very easy to kind of believe that this is normal and that this is just how it is and that you have to be this way. And I guess I just don't want to buy into that. I don't think that that's a good idea. When he brought this up, his audience thinks apparently that I feel bad, and he thinks that I feel bad, and they all think that I'm super regretful of my actions. And they seem to think they were like, she wants you back, and I was like, well, I don't regret how I behaved in this. I don't regret it at all. I think that I navigated this situation as well as I possibly could have navigated it. And, insofar as like, do I want him back? Well, I don't think that that could ever actually work, because, we're now at a point where I don't trust him, he doesn't trust me, and I don't think that that will ever change. And the thing of it is too is like is now I've actually heard everything that he always thought about me. And I think intellectually I always knew the things that he thought about me, right? It's not like I'm not dumb. He might say I'm dumb, but I'm actually not dumb. Like I knew intellectually what he thought about me. Um but hearing him say it over and over and over, Jesus Christ, over and over and over again in the way that he did, I can't ever unhear that. I can't ever unhear that. And I feel like I really tried to play it straight. I feel like there are all sorts of things I could have done to him. You know, again, it's not as though I wasn't aware of it's not as though I wasn't aware of his past, right? And I'm not even on this stream, I'm not gonna say what it is. I'm not like, even though it's been out there and even though people have used it against him for years, I'm not going to say, like, because I actually don't believe that this is appropriate. I feel like I could have picked apart his past, I could have brought up stuff about him, I could have even talked about his lack of hair and all that stuff, and, I could have done exactly to him what he did to me. And if there's anything I'm really proud of, it's that I really feel like I was able to hold it together and not respond with anger. And I'll tell you this too, like, I never actually thought I was gonna release those DMs. Like, that actually, like, that was kind of like a last resort for me. I never actually wanted to do that. God, I don't know why I'm emotional. I'm not, like, sad about, like, I guess no, I do know why I'm emotional. I'll get to why I'm emotional in a second. I do know why. Um, I never actually wanted to release the DMs. He thought I did, but I didn't. I never actually, but it was like when I decided to release the DMs, actually this does kind of go to why I'm emotional because like there's a mourning process that I think you go through when you lose someone that you've been talking to. And I'm not saying this in terms of like, I wasn't romantically in love with him, but I was talking to him a lot, and he definitely did have an impact on how I saw things, and I think it's like, I'm gonna miss that in the same way that if Bot went away, I would miss the hell out of Bot if Bot went away. If Reagan went away, if Sin went away, if so many people, if, like, Kino went away or Nick went away or any of these people in my community, like, and there have been people in my community that have left. I mean, I actually lost quite a few people in my community after I didn't say the right things about Israel after October 7th. Um, and I was hurt by some of those. A couple of them in particular, I found it really, really hurtful. There have been people in my community, like older people who supported me that like they just disappear one day and it's like, I don't know, maybe they died. I don't know. And so I mourn those losses too. And I'm kind of I feel like I'm mourning in a similar way because there were conversations with him that I did enjoy. And it's a weird thing. I really do think he has, like, multiple personality disorder or something. I think there is actually legitimately something wrong, and I don't say that as any sort of own, but let me explain to you, and I'm glad Everyday Therapist is here because Everyday Therapist has experience working with people with a dissociative disorder. I wanna be clear. I'm not trying to, like, diagnose anyone. I'm not saying like, I'm not a clinician. I don't have expertise in this area. But I wanna describe what I experienced because I feel like this might be something that people experience with other people. There were times with him when, like, there were 2 different sides that I experienced with him, and those sides were, like, 2 completely different energies, completely different. You guys know, like, I'm very, very sensitive to energy. I pick up on energy very, very easily, and so there were these 2 distinct versions of big tech that I was talking to. One of those versions had this sweet, kind of childlike, innocent, kind, gentle energy. And that's how it felt, and it was nice to talk to that person, and that was the person that I liked. That was the one that I liked. That was the one that I got to have spiritual discussions with. That was the one that I think, actually started to red pill me, although sometimes he went into the other one, and we'll talk about that in a second. But, like, there were so many good like, the one who was on the week 2 stream of Century of the South, that was the one that I liked. The one that, you guys saw me having the conversation about the Extremist Book Club, that was the version of him that I liked, and it was just like, when that person was around, it was cool, man. Like, I really enjoyed those conversations. That was the person I wanted to be talking to. But what would happen, and this happened 4 or 5 times in, like, the course of me knowing him, it was like that person would peek out every once in a while, and we'd have good conversations and good dialogue and everything was fine, and then I would wake up one day and the wall would come down, and I would be met with a completely different person. And that other person, the one that I did not like at all, was cold, was dense, was angry, was the schoolyard bully. So it's kinda like you had this one energy over here that was very childlike and innocent and pure and actually really nice to interact with, and then I would interact with that one for a while, and then boom, out of nowhere, the schoolyard bully comes out. I did not like the schoolyard bully at all. Now, there were several rounds of this when we were talking where, like, the schoolyard bully would come out, I wouldn't like it, and I would just disengage, honestly. There would be weeks, 2 weeks where I wouldn't even talk to him, wouldn't interact with him at all, because I did not like that energy, and so I was just like, he's like, whatever, he's doing whatever, but, like, I'm not doing this, and so then, like, what would happen is the nice one would come back, and the nice one would peek out, and we'd start talking again, and I'd interact with the nice one, and then boom, the wall comes down, schoolyard bully's back. I'd stop talking to him. Then a couple weeks later, nice one comes back. I like the nice one, I'm talking to the nice one, boom, schoolyard bully comes back. That's what I experienced over and over and over again. And I was kind of cool with it. I was just like, okay, this is just the cycle. I just need to, like, whatever. But when we were watching Century of the Self, because we had kind of like agreed to do like these weekly streams, after the week 2 version of Century of the Self, the stream that actually I thought went really well, boom, wall comes down. Guess what? We still have to do the week 3 stream. And so it wasn't something that I could disengage with because we had already planned to do this, but the person that showed up wasn't the person that I talked to on week 2. It was a completely different person. Now, some people might argue that, like, he's all the same, it's all an act, and maybe that's true, but that's actually the most epic mindfuck of the whole thing because it's one of those things where, like, if I lost Bod or I lost Reagan or I lost, any of the people who've been around for a long time on my channel, or if I lost, like, some of my friends in real life, that are not internet people, and so, like, you guys don't really know who they are, like, I would feel genuinely sad, and I would mourn those losses, and that would be rough. But in a case like this, the real mind rape of this situation is like, did the person that I like talking to, did that person ever exist at all? And that's what I spent a lot of time thinking about. So I don't know, everyday therapist, does that sound like someone that has dissociative disorder? Often when people with dissociative disorder don't realize it until they work it out with someone who can help them figure it out. I mean, the thing is too, like, the schoolyard bully wouldn't know. There was memory lapses, and maybe you could attribute it to, like, he smoked a lot of weed. And I'm really not trying to analyze his mental health live on the internet. I'm actually just like, I'm working through some feelings. But, like, the other thing that was, like, weird is, like, the schoolyard bully aspect of him wouldn't know some of the things that the nice aspect of him talked to me about. There was like a memory loss. So that's the other reason that I think that might be the case. But if it is the case, that's not something to make fun of, and that's not something to, like, do an own on the internet about, right? That's not it. But going back to, like, why I decided to release the DMs, like, see, this is what I'm talking about. Again, it could just be like, I know he smoked a lot of weed in his life, so maybe it's like that, I don't know, but it could, I don't know, it's just sad. So we were sitting on that call where he was just berating me, and you guys have like listened to that call. And the reason I decided to release the DMs was not just that it was 5 a.m. and I really wanted to go to bed, or 4:30 or whenever I decided to release them, but, like, um, it wasn't just because I was tired. Uh, I decided to release them because as he's, like, screaming at me and berating me and calling me fat in every single way he could call me fat, and by the way, his audience seems to think that I have, like, special camera angles where I'm just hiding how fat I really am. Like his audience seems to want me to like mount my camera on my closet door that's like to the right of me so that you guys can have like a side view of me at all times so you can constantly be evaluating like the size of maybe even wear tighter shirts so you can really like evaluate like the size of my boobs and the size of my tummy at any given time to see how like and it's like anyway, as he was sitting there calling me fat in every way that he possibly could, as he was doing all these streams about me where he's digging through the dossiers that his audience has created for me and trying to humiliate me in every possible way. I was just sitting there going like did the nice version of him ever actually exist? And would I ever actually be able to see that nice version again? Would I be able to actually interact with the person that I liked? And the answer that I just came to at the end of the day was like, no, no, that person's gone, and I can never unhear the things that he's been screaming at me for an hour. And so what I decided to do was protect myself and do what was best for me. And what was best for me was to make it absolutely clear that my grievance was that he tried to gaslight me about the grapers, which was actually what my grievance was. And he seems to think it's because he wanted to take a break from talking, and that was not it at all. That was not it at all. Uh I was sick of the bickering. I wanted the bickering to go away. I had no problem actually taking a break. What I had a problem with was the lack of acknowledgement that what he was doing was trying to sabotage my relationships with my new group of friends that I had just made that I was really excited about that didn't quite frankly really have anything to do with him. And that was what my grievance was about, and I wanted to make that clear, and I felt like the only way that I could make that clear was to just show his words, and I didn't want to do it, but I was at the point where like I was like this is never getting fixed. I can never unhear this. Even if that nice version of him does come back, it's kind of like now I know what he really thinks. So what can you do? What can you do but protect yourself? And I think that that's kind of like the last thing that I wanted to talk about in terms of like I don't think that people should be gaslit to believe that protecting their interests makes them a bad person. So that's kind of like what I wanted to say about that. And you know, it is actually my hope that he's able to move on. And I don't know like if that's gonna happen. I don't like everyone's telling me that he's just gonna keep making content about me anyway. And that's true. Like, listen, man, this is not the first time I've triggered someone on the internet to become obsessed with making content about me. I'm actually kind of curious of if like Kieran is going to like reach out to him to try to connect with him because the thing is that under any normal circumstance, and by the way, people don't know who Kieran is. Kieran is a boy that confessed to me that he was in love with me twice on an unrecorded Zoom call 3 years ago and was told emphatically that I cared about him, but I wasn't leaving my husband for him. And then started to create all sorts of nonsense on the internet that just like, I mean, he was the one that doxed Aaron. He was the one that he basically tried to make my life a living hell as revenge for the fact that like I wouldn't leave my husband for him after he confessed that he loved me on a Zoom call. Anyway, I know that Kieran knows about this because Kieran stalks everything that I do, in order to try to make my life miserable. But you know, the funny aspect of this is that the only ally that Kieran has left now is Deb. That's it. Kieran has no other allies. Kieran has lost every single ally that he has in his obsession with me over like the last 3 years. And he streams to like 3 people Even when he has Deb on his stream, and Deb is a Jew, and Deb is a Zionist, and Deb really, 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 really hates everyone that is anti-Zionist. And if you thought Deb hated me, Deb's really gonna hate him. Can you imagine? Can you imagine Deb Philman signing off on Kieran interacting with a literal National Socialist who loves Hitler and hates Jews, and that is exactly what big tech is? I think it would actually be hilarious. So I actually have questions like, is it like I really hope this doesn't happen, and I really hope he just moves on and stops obsessing. But I've already had someone obsess about me for years on end, and I kind of like, part of me was wondering, like, are they gonna just start making content together? Are they gonna do these whole streams where Kieran's gonna lie and chill a bunch of bullshit about me because he's still bitter 3 years later? But that would have consequences for him, because if he did that, he would probably lose his contact with Deb, and Deb is like all that he has in his life. So that'll be an interesting thing to see. Anyway, let me get this super chat from Rottweiler. If he tries to hoover you back, then I think it's safe to say he ticks a lot of narcissistic personality disorder boxes, sadly speaking from experience. I don't think he's going to do that. I don't think he's going to do that. I think that, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe you're right, Rottweiler, but like, narcissism is not my current read on the situation. But I guess time will tell. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say about that. Thank you guys for allowing me to have some feelings. I hope some of the things that I said like resonated with you, and maybe some things you've experienced in your life, because that was really why I wanted to talk about it. Like, less being about like me working out feelings on the internet. Okay, maybe a little bit of me working out feelings on the internet, but like, I wanted to talk about it from the perspective of like, I think other people go through things like this, and I think it's important to talk about things like this, and I think it's important for people to hear different perspectives on it. And ultimately, like, I've forgiven him. I let it go. I did a whole cord cutting ceremony and everything. And I really do hope that he finds what he's looking for, and I don't wish him any ill will. And I hope that he is not really the horrible schoolyard bully, and I hope that that's just a defense mechanism for maybe some trauma that he's experienced in his life, and I hope he works out his issues someday, but that's really up to him. It's not up to me. Anyway, moving on. Speaking of the Groypers, did you guys see that Nick Fuentes ratioed Turning Point in the most epic possible way? This was actually insane. Nick Fuentes ratioed Turning Point within minutes of responding to their tweet. And then it just kept getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And I was watching this in real time. I think I saw it within like 4 minutes of Nick posting this tweet. Check this out. So Turning Point said, just a reminder, free speech isn't just the speech you disagree with. And then all Nick Fuentes did, this is like so genius. It's so funny. All Nick Fuentes did was say, hey. And like, instantly, like, he ratioed Turning Point. And then you see, like, by the time it I took this screenshot at 11:30 this morning. He had 12,000 likes on his replies, whereas Turning Point only had 529. He had over 750 like retweets on his reply, whereas Turning Point only had over 100. And by the way, those 100, most of them were about Nick Fuentes. And I was looking at this and I was thinking back to this stream that Carrie Smith did, where where Carrie Smith was like, Nick Fuentes has no relevance, and Turning Point is the only real conservative conference that was happening in Detroit that weekend. It was the only official conservative conference, and Nick Fuentes is just irrelevant, and most people don't know who Nick Fuentes is. And Carrie's like little cope video was ringing in my ears as I saw this, and I was like, yo, this is power. And it's like, it's so stupid that this is power too. I was saying for years, I don't care what people do on Twitter. Twitter sucks. Twitter is like not something I'm going to pay attention to. I can't take Twitter seriously. But the fact of the matter is that like every influencer in the world takes Twitter seriously for reasons beyond my understanding. And so it's kind of one of those things where it's like, if you want to be playing in this sandbox, you have to be playing on Twitter because this type of power is all that matters. But how telling is it? He has 12,000 likes on a reply that is one word, compared to $40 million a year Turning Point USA with 500 likes. You cannot like Nick Fuentes all you want, but you have to admit that's actually pretty powerful. That's actually pretty amazing. But that's not actually even the only thing that's amazing. Check this out. So I took this picture at like 11:30 this morning, and then I went downstairs and I made myself some breakfast at 11:30 in the morning. Yeah, I sleep in because I work till like 3 or 4 in the morning, and then I sleep in the next day. So like 45 minutes later, so I went to make breakfast. I went to hang out with the dogs and to see my husband and all this stuff and just do my normal morning routine. I come back to my computer and I was like, I wonder how many likes this has now. And so I went back to check the tweet to see how much it had gone up because it was just going up all night. And a funny thing, 45 minutes after I took the picture with the 12,000 likes, I came back to it and there were only 11,000 likes on it. How does that work? How does that work? How is it possible that at 11:15, 11:30 this morning, the tweet had 12,000 likes on it, and 45 minutes later, it only had 11,000 likes on it? What's going on? Yeah, I don't think there was a rash of people that were rushing to unlike Nick Fuentes' tweet. So what was going on? And I'll say this too, like another thing that's weird about this is usually with Twitter, like the reply with like the most like, comments and likes and all that stuff, that appears right under the tweet. That's not doing it. Nick Fuentes is pushed way down the algorithm. Way down the algorithm. Actually, let's just see. We'll look at it under my sock account. And I want to just go in. Hang on. I don't know. He's been tweeting today, so. See, Jordan Peterson has blocked me, but he hasn't blocked Nick Fuentes. Where's the Turning Point tweet? Where is the Turning Point tweet? Can I even access the Turning Point tweet? Where did it go? Where did it go? Oh, here it is. Okay. So I click on the Turning Point tweet. Where's Nick Fuentes? Where's his reply? Where is he? Look at the replies. Got to keep going down. See, they won't allow Nick to have a blue check. There's me. Where is Nick Fuentes in the replies? We're still going down. Still haven't found him yet. Where is he? Where is he? Oh, still going down. Still. Oh, here he is. Here he is. How far did we have to go down in order to find Nick Fuentes' reply? Like, how crazy is that? They've absolutely buried, and this is what makes this even more impressive too. They have buried him on this platform. They're not allowing him to get a blue check. They are taking likes away from him, like provably, and yet still, And you can even see here now he's up to 13,000 likes. And I think they've slowed this down because he's gotten over 30,000 more views of this tweet than when I checked in this morning. And he's only gone up 1,000 likes, and that doesn't hold the ratio that was true all last night. So I just want to point this out, man. Like, listen, I think that Elon Musk taking over Twitter is probably a net benefit, but they're still dicking around, and there's absolutely no reason why Nick Fuentes shouldn't have a blue check. Nick Fuentes didn't break any of the Twitter platform rules when he was removed from the platform. He was brought back, and now they won't allow him to get a blue check because they want to keep his replies suppressed. And even then, he is still one of the most relevant people on the platform, and he doesn't even try that hard. Like, it is incredible the influence this kid has. And so this is and this is not the only reason I'm supporting what he's doing, but I think it's a really exciting thing to watch, to be honest. I think it's an exciting thing to watch someone who the conservative movement tried to destroy for years and years and years starting when he was 18 years old, and Nick never gave up, and he just kept persevering, and he just kept coming back. And it's like, even against all odds, he has become one of the most relevant voices on one of the most relevant platforms in this game. And I just think it's incredibly impressive. And so make sure you're following him, because he really does make Twitter fun again. I like it. I like it a lot. See, again, like, Big Tech wants to make it be like, he wants to make it seem like I fell in love with Big Tech and that's just the way it was. Nah, bro. I fell in love with Nick Fuentes. I fell in love with Nick Fuentes, and then, you know, the rest of it was just a sideshow, and he's still my main guy. All right, so that happened, and then I want to show you this. Oh, Melanie. Melanie, we're going to keep an eye on you, girl. Melanie Bennett. Now, if you don't know who Melanie Bennett is, don't worry about it, but I've known who Melanie Bennett is for a while, because Melanie Bennett is a Canadian woman who has been stealing my shit for months. And I would get these messages from people from time to time saying, have you checked out Melanie? Melanie's talking about some good stuff. Have you checked her out? Like, are you talking to her? And it was like, I would look at what they were saying. I was like, she's repeating my talking points verbatim. And I didn't really mind that so much, because I was like, you know what? Sometimes that's okay. If people are learning from my content, that's cool. And then every once in a while, Melanie would post something that I did, so I knew she was watching me. I knew where it was coming from, and I wasn't going to make a stink out of it until now. Because Melanie was secretly watching Socialism Saturday on Saturday, and then Melanie decided to take this clip of Sophie, a clip that I specifically made on the stream, so she knew, like, the timestamp and everything. And she decided to make this clip of Sophie and to pawn it off on Twitter as something that she found herself. And then, of course, because this isn't coming from me, well, it is coming from me, because I was the one who found this content, and I was the one that was talking about this content, and I was the one that was breaking down this content. But because it doesn't come from me, conservative influencers suddenly thought it was necessary to share, because they never share content when I put it out, because they refuse to look at it if I put it out. But if someone else watches my shows and then goes and steals my content, like Melanie is, and then they put it out, all of a sudden it's deemed important enough to share. This is the way it works, guys. This is the way it has always worked. And so I found out about that about 1:30 last night. And I said, and I thought, I maybe thought it was still Sunday when I tweeted this. And I replied to Melanie and I said, did you tune in to Socialism Saturday perchance? Because this was literally the video that we watched on Socialism Saturday. And Melanie said, this one was picked up from listening to your show, yes. I didn't think it would get picked up the way it did. I should probably add a tag next time. Thanks. And so what we did is I said, yes, that would be nice when you use content I spend hours digging for to find without attributing where it came from. It would be nice if you could reply with a tweet to your tweet noting the Socialism Saturday stream you got it from, and directing people there for more information. Because if you actually genuinely just care about getting this information out to people, why wouldn't you want them to have the link to the 4-hour breakdown that I did of that entire stream 2 days before this that she was watching, and that's where she found this out. Well, that started hours of fighting between me and Melanie and all the people on Twitter that are not happy that Melanie stole my tweet. And all these people were going into her replies, like posting the Socialism Saturday link, being like, why are you stealing this? Why are you stealing this? In the meantime, James Lindsay is retweeting this. Ian Miles Chong is retweeting this. Jordan Peterson fucking retweeted this. All stolen from content that I did on Socialism Saturday, because none of them, absolutely none of them, know how to find this content on their own. We are the only ones that are sourcing this type of content, which is why they block me on Twitter, and then they watch my streams and they steal my content and they pretend that they were the ones that found it, when in fact, I was just the one that was digging through the YouTube archives for hours on end to find what we're doing. This is why you see content on my channel that you don't see anywhere else. It's not just because of magic. It's not because someone sends it to me. It's because I literally spend hours going down YouTube rabbit holes and going and finding all these little small YouTube channels and searching names of activists and sourcing different things. I spend hours every single week doing this to bring you guys the content that we bring. I disavow this thieving compatriot. Yeah, Nathan. Thank you. I appreciate that. So Melanie, and I even interacted with Melanie in DMs. And I said, Melanie, this is not the first time that you've stolen my content. And actually, why don't I just bring those up? Hang on. Why don't I just bring those up? Why don't I just do that? Let's see. Where is it? Here that I started it? Yes. Okay. So, long story short, Melanie ended up blocking me after she stole my content. Yup, she's a ghost watcher. Yup. And here's what happened, because I had slid after two, like we had been in her replies for like 2 hours this morning saying, why are you stealing my content? 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 Melanie had already admitted that she stole my content. Melanie had already admitted that this was about Socialism Saturday. She had already confessed to stealing my content. And so I slid into Melanie's DMs and I said, if you keep stealing my content without credit, we will make sure that no one takes you seriously. Don't think I don't understand. This isn't the first time this has happened, because I've watched Melanie do this. I've watched her over the course of months steal my talking points, steal my content. I never said anything. People who are like, Carlin, you just fight with everyone and you create conflict. Yo, I've watched this bitch steal from me for months. Uncredited. And I didn't say shit until she starts messing with my flagship fucking stream. She starts taking content that I'm the only one on the internet covering Sophie Lewis and Abolish the Family content on a regular basis. Melanie doesn't even understand it. And now all of a sudden, all these conservative influencers are sharing this content for like the first time, imagining that no one else has ever shared this before, when in fact, this wasn't even the first time I watched this stream. This was the second time I watched this stream. So I sat back for months and let this bitch steal my content. And this is finally a bridge too far. And I'm going to say something. And Melanie says, you perceive malicious intent where there isn't any. And I said, if that was true, you would have posted a reply crediting me with a link to the stream hours ago. I've been doing this for years before you, and I have had my work stolen by others. So it is no longer something I tolerate. I do not mind you sharing my work, but if you continue to do so without credit, we will make sure people know where the work came from. And then Melanie says, I did reply to you thanking you and saying I'll tag you in the future. Your follower posted a few links to your stream. I didn't actually watch the stream past checking out the video title. That's actual bullshit, Melanie. That's actual bullshit. You already said, you already confessed to watching my stream, and now you're backtracking because you think I'm stupid. You have good suggestions, and sometimes I check them out. So Melanie thinks it's a coincidence that I streamed this on Saturday. I actually, on my stream, clipped exactly the same section that Melanie streamed. And she wants me to believe that she just tuned in for a second to just see what I was streaming. And then she went off and watched it on her own and just happened, excuse me, she just happened to clip exactly one of the same sections that I had clipped. Uh-huh. Okay, Melanie, you're a liar. At the end of the day, I'm not trying to make a career. I'm just a regular person affected by this stuff personally, which is why I spend so much time researching it. You don't spend time researching it, Melanie. You steal from other people. I'm happy to tag you if I post another video from one you've had on your streams. I tend to ignore bullying tactics, though. So now Melanie Bennett has stolen my work, confessed to stealing my work, now is trying to backtrack because she's getting called out everywhere. And now she's saying that I'm the bully because I'm saying, you're going to stop stealing my work and you're going to start crediting me. And if you don't start doing that, then we're going to make sure it came. So, yes, I'm the bully, guys. Remember, I'm the bully. It's totally fine for her to do all this stuff repeatedly, but I'm the bully because I'm saying literally all you need to do, Melanie, is post a reply with the stream. That's all you need to do. That's all we're asking for. We're not actually asking for too much here. So then I said, no, that's not what's being requested. Reply to your original tweet with a link to my Socialism Saturday stream saying that you got it from watching me. This is how sourcing works. If you do not do that, we will make sure people know. And if you don't like that, then stop stealing my work. You have already had hours to do this and have not. And so we will not assume positive intent on your part until you correct things. I'm more than happy to post this entire DM conversation publicly, Melanie, so that people can see that you've acknowledged where it came from and refused to credit it. Whether or not that happens is entirely up to you. Literally, all she had to do was post a reply to her tweet saying, I got this from Carlin's Socialism Saturday stream. You can watch the full stream here. That's it. That's all she had to do. Why is it so difficult to get these conservative content whores to actually just credit where they're getting the content? I credit people all the time if I take their content. It's really not that big of a deal. And then Melanie says, I can't stop you doing what you feel you have to. And I said, absolutely, when you steal my work and refuse to acknowledge credit, we will drag you for it. And if you do it again, we will drag you again. And if you go on podcasts using my talking points without credit, we will find out about it and invade the comments pointing it out. All you have to do is credit my work that you use to source your material. If you do not have the intellectual integrity to do so, we will make sure people know that. You could continue arguing with me, or you could just post a reply to your original tweet with a link to my Socialism Saturday stream, crediting the source, and then Melanie, because she has so much intellectual integrity, blocked me. And then she went on to block a whole bunch of people that replied to her, demanding she credit the source, just like James Lindsay. And so, Melanie Bennett, we're going to be watching you, girl, because we all have sock accounts, and don't think we're going to fucking forget about this. You keep stealing my work, we will keep making sure that people know that you are a content shill that doesn't know what the fuck you're talking about, that doesn't bother to do any work for yourself. Guys, do you know who else doesn't believe in intellectual property? Socialists. I mean, it kind of seems to me like Melanie, who claims to be anti-woke, who claims to be anti-communist, it kind of seems like to me, Melanie feels a little bit entitled to have me do her work for her so that she can get famous on the internet by taking other people's content without sourcing them. And if you think she's just doing it to me, I mean, I am like one of the best people to do it to, but because I have the best content, obviously. But if you think that she's just doing it to me, I think that's just a little silly. So let's all keep an eye on Melanie Bennett. And of course, if you want the news before it hits anywhere else, then make sure you are subscribed to my Substack. Of course, make sure you're subscribed to my YouTube channel as well. Join us Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. We do Socialism Saturdays on Saturday at 6 p.m. And you can see the content before the conservative influencers steal it from me and pretend they found it on their own. And if you want to support the work I'm doing, please head over to my Substack, which is Carlyn, KARLYN.substack.com, and sign up for $8 a month, $80 a year, because if people don't support my work, then the conservative shills on Twitter will have nothing to steal because none of them know how to source this content on their own. So $8 a month, $80 a year keeps me in business. If you want to get some supporter perks, head over to the Unwoke Roundup email, click on it. And what you want to do is go all the way down to the bottom, and underneath this red box, you're going to find links to my 2 Zoom calls that I do every single week. We're doing one in about an hour from now at 7 p.m. We are also doing another one on Wednesday at noon. You will find links to my supporter Discord. You will find any other supporter perks that are available for that week. So you can go ahead, keep in touch with the community, come join us, and we would love to see you in the community call at about 7 p.m. Rachel says, newer here. Did you see the Tree of Logic made a video about you? Tree of Logic is a fucking moron. Yo, why on earth would I worry about Tree of Logic? Tree of Logic is legitimately one of the stupidest people on the internet. So no, I do not care at all. I don't care at all what Tree of Logic has to say about me. That woman has an IQ that is maybe 65 on a good day. And so, no, we don't bother ourselves with dumb people here, Rachel. Rachel, you're with the smart kids now. You must be smart if you found your way to me. I promise. Like, just leave like that kid, that bitch has like a kindergarten level IQ, man. One of the dumbest people on the internet. Don't pay attention to the trash, the trash. Why can't I talk? Don't pay attention to the trash, Rachel. Just stick with us. We're going to do some cool stuff today. Let's see. Does this mean James Lindsay reposted your work without realizing it? Well, yeah. Well, James likes to overtly steal from me. James, like this is James covertly stealing from me. James Lindsay can pretend he has plausible deniability in this, but James Lindsay has also overtly stole from my work and admitted stealing from my work. So I know we're all shocked and amazed at that. Anyway, guys, we got to get into this presentation, and we're not going to be able to do the whole thing, but maybe we'll get into a good bit of it. We are watching a presentation. We are watching, I'm just losing my voice. We are watching a it's fucking allergies. I'm so congested right now. It's like, so I'm like, if I sound like I'm stuffed up, it's because I feel like I've got allergies. Anyway, sorry, I'm not perfect, okay? I'm not perfect like the people on the internet expect me to be. I'm fat, I'm ugly, I have allergies. Whatever. That's not going to stop us from watching this presentation. So let's dig into this. We are watching the California Department of Food and Agriculture, their Pride Month panel. Remember, this is going to be taxpayer funded. Let's get this party started.
Undersecretary Christine Birdsong.
Wonderful. Thank you. Well, hi, everybody. Happy Pride Month. Thanks for taking the time to be on this panel. We've got a lot of people on this one. I think we're going to have a nice, lively discussion. So I'm not going to talk a whole lot, but I always like to start out by talking about kind of the history behind these commemorations. So just really quickly, Pride Month got started based on the Stonewall riots, which happened in New York on June 28, 1969. There was a raid on a gay bar called the Stonewall Inn. At the time, it was illegal to serve alcohol to gays and lesbians. So it was fairly commonplace to do these raids on gay bars. So, but this time, when they raided Stonewall, the patrons there fought back. And there were riots and an occupation that lasted for 6 days. And this was the first time that the gay rights movement really came to the forefront and got the attention of the wider audience of the US. It became a political issue then. Now, gay rights there had been groups before since the early 1900s by my research, but this was the first time that there was mainstream attention being paid to it. So the following year, to commemorate it, there was a march in Greenwich. It was not just a march in Greenwich, there was a march in Chicago, there was a march in LA and San Francisco, all commemorating what had happened just a year before. And the next year, there were more marches throughout the country. And this is how the Gay Pride Parade got started, from a march that was somber at the time and still trying to keep the attention.
Well, this is actually kind of why I wanted to watch this, is I kind of felt like I skimmed through this a little bit. I was like, is this a struggle session? This kind of feels like a struggle session. We might skim through a little bit just because we're short on time on a Monday.
To something that was really joyful, became joyful over time. But it wasn't until 2000 when President Clinton claimed or acknowledged June as Gay and Lesbian Pride Month. And then it was 9 years later when President Barack Obama gave it the more inclusive term of LGBTQ, right? Or is it LGBT at that time? No, it was LGBT at that time, Pride Month. And of course, now we have the even more inclusive term of LGBTQIA plus. And
Plus,
I'll
plus,
just say
plus,
really
plus,
quick, because I
plus.
had to look it up myself. Everybody always does. We know what the LGBT part is. The Q is for queer or questioning. The I is for intersex, and the A is for asexual. And the plus is for all of the other genders and sexual identities that kind of defy categorization. And the term is really meant to be all inclusive for all flavors and types of human beings that there are out there. So that's my short, brief history. Please feel free to correct me on any of that. Did I get anything
I
wrong?
feel like I want to put my hair back behind my headphone.
Good, thanks.
I'm
Well, I
trying
enjoyed
some new
looking it up.
looks,
Well,
but I
thank
feel like
you
I
for
want to
joining us.
do this.
I always like to kind of start with the question of, what do you do at CDFA and how long have you worked here? So I'm going to start with
so
you,
much more
Carl, and
comfortable.
as we go along,
There we go.
feel free to
Asymmetrical look
introduce
is back.
yourself.
Hello, everybody. My name is Carl Baum. I'm the administrative manager for the Citrus Pest and Disease Prevention Division. So me and my staff, we oversee all the budget, human resources, fleet, procurement, contracts, inventory, and leasing for the department. I've been with CDFA going on 17 years this year. I started in plant admin, then I went to pest exclusion and plant.
I'm going to
Then
speed
I
it up a
went
little bit.
to
I usually don't
admin
do this,
division
but
where I
making
worked
an
for
exception.
grants, then facilities, then the budget office. Then I went back to plant to work in the border stations, and then I landed in citrus division.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God.
Okay, wow. That...
Hi, I pretty much did customer service management with Java City, Starbucks, Rubio's Mexican Grill, and then here. And best decision I ever made was come to the state. My wife was a state worker, and we had our son, and he was just born. And she said, "I want you working crazy nights and weekends and holidays, and so you need to get it."
Oh, you guys are hearing a crackle? Shit. All right, hang on. Let's reload. I turned on the two
Right.
times. Hang on.
Grateful to have you. Thank you. How about you, Trey?
Is the crackle still there?
Hi, I'm Trey Kenyon. I work in human resources in the disability management unit. I'm a senior personnel specialist. I've been with CDFA for coming up on 8 years.
Is it
Before
still
coming
there?
to CDFA, I was in private sector management. So I pretty much did customer service management with Java
Nope,
City,
okay.
Starbucks, Rubio's Mexican Grill, and then Children's Place before.
Okay, now I'm going to try to turn it up ×2. And we're going to see if is the crackle still there starting now.
Came over here. And best decision I ever made was to come to the state. My wife was a state worker, and we had our son, and he was just born. And she said, "I don't want you working crazy nights and weekends and holidays, and so you need to get into the state." And 8 weeks later, I got hired, and so pretty quick to come onto the state. But it was the best
Reload.
thing I ever did. And
Excellent. Thank you.
jumped into disability and found a career that I truly, truly love and value. And CDFA's done me well. So that's pretty much it.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Great. Glad you're here. Nicholas.
Hi, I'm Nick Communis. It's good to be here. First, though, I want to acknowledge all the people that have gone before us. That way we can sit up here and be out on this panel and not criminalized for being LGBTQIA+, because we stand on the work that they did. So that being said, I work in the antimicrobial use and stewardship unit. Shout out to Dr. Marshall and my colleagues back there that came to support. We're part of the Animal Health and Food Safety Services Division. I'm a research scientist, epidemiologist there, and I'm fairly new. I just passed my year on June 1st with the state, and I absolutely love it. I really love working here. Before that, I was working at an academic research institute, which I didn't love as much, but yeah, it's great to be here. Thank you.
Good. Glad you're here. And a real newbie.
A real
Almost,
newbie.
almost here. And I also want to thank you for that acknowledgement at the outset. It's really important. Thank you. Leticia.
Hi, I'm Leticia Regalado. I am the admin analyst for the Office of Civil Rights. I'm also the DEI coordinator, the employment engagement program coordinator, and then also the language access coordinator, along with other admin duties. I began working at CDFA in 2008, and I started as an OT in the marketing branch, and I was really lucky in about 2010. A supervisor from the manufacturing cost unit, her name was Vanetta Reed, saw potential in me and wanted me to learn cost studies in her unit. So I was put on a TND while I went back to school and got took my 6 auditing accounting classes so that I could take the Auditor 1 exam. So I became an auditor and then eventually became the supervising auditor of that unit. Unfortunately, in 2018, the marketing and the dairy marketing and the milk pooling branch dissolved due to the farmers voting to enter into the federal milk marketing order system. So then I ended up in contracts and then now in the Office of Civil Rights, and it's just the best place to be. I'm very happy.
Yeah. And you're running our DEI initiatives as well there, right?
Yes, yes,
Right.
DEI, yes.
So happy you're there. Thank you. Thank you. The follow-up question is how did you come to state service? I know, Trey, you said that kind of work-family balance is really important. I'm glad to hear that you found that here. I know that sometimes things happen at CDFA and we do have some long hours. And I know especially field staff, when we had quarantines, we're working 7 days a week. So I'm very glad to hear that you have that balance for sure. How about anybody else? Carl, what brought you to state service?
What brought me to state service was a hearing with Sacramento County. I worked for Sacramento County, and the Board of Supervisors had a meeting where they said that they were taking away medical retirement. And I wasn't happy about it. And a friend of mine.
All right, we're
worked
going
for
to
the
fast
Department
forward a
of
little bit. I don't
Justice,
even know
said,
why they're in
when are you
state
going to come work for
service.
the state?
Sorry, we got
And I-
time constraints.
Oh, I'm Justin
What
Hopper.
brought you to CDFA?
Well, I'm Justin Hopper. I'm the Chief of Civil Rights for CDFA. I've been in this role for about 4 years now, but I've been with CDFA.
Why does the California... So one of the reasons that you watch panels like this is not necessarily that they're the most interesting things in the world, but I highly recommend, like, look up stuff like this for your community, your state, see what your taxes are paying for, because this is all taxpayer funded. And it's one of those things where you watch panels like this because you find out about all the positions they have within the department. So why does the California Department of Food and Agriculture have a whole civil rights division? Like, why do they have that position? What does that person do? How do you find it? You just search your state government. Search state and local government.
I'm the Chief of Civil Rights for CDFA. I've been in
The Chief of Civil Rights. Why does the California Department of Food and Agriculture have a Chief of Civil Rights? This is one of those things where you find this out and then it's like, what does that person do? What does that office do? Why does this exist? What is this act? This is the boring shit that most people don't want to do, that once you start going down these rabbit holes, this is how you find the crazy stuff. And the good part about this is you can FOIA everything that's taxpayer funded. So it's like once you start getting a sense of like who these people are and what they're working on, then you can start sending in FOIA requests, things like that.
This role for about 4 years now. But I've been with CDFA for almost 10 years.
10 years.
All with the EEO
right.
/ PCR. In that time, I started as an SSA, and then now I'm the chief of the office. So I've progressively moved up in the office since I started with CDFA. But prior to that, I was working for
No, FOIA requests
CHP
aren't
and
free.
personnel. I worked for the Department of Industrial Relations doing Berman clerk duties, and I worked for corrections. That's how I got my start, was with the Department of Corrections, working in mental health. And what brought me to CDFA is I actually started my adult career in the grocery industry. I worked there for about 8 years doing different duties. I was an international cheese buyer at one point, which was really cool, but you gain weight really easily doing that job.
You have to sample it all.
Oh yeah. And then I just kind of got disillusioned by working in the grocery space after a while, because in 2008, when we had the recession, it just wasn't working out for me. So my husband was working for the state at the time, kind of strong-armed me into taking an exam, and I've been with the state ever since.
All right.
So
I want to hear
been
the actual
very
panel.
rewarding, especially in the role I'm in right now.
Start asking
And the
questions.
career they chose, or the passions or the hobbies or their values. So that's my next question. Who did you look up to when you were growing up, and how did they influence you? And this time I'm going to start with Justin so I don't forget him. Justin.
Who do I look up to? So that's a hard one for me, because I've never really had like a role model in my life. And I know that sounds kind of sad, but it's just because I'm very different personality wise and like kind of career wise than the rest of my family. So I didn't have a lot of people in that realm. But I always kind of looked up to my dad just in his philosophies on life. And so, as I think a lot of people on the panel can understand, like when you're growing up as a gay kid or a kid that's different, when you're surrounded by religion or contrary views or what have you, and a lot of folks around me were very religious, it can be scary to even think about coming out or being different. And I remember my dad at one point saying, and this was before I came out to him, he said, your belief in God, you don't need to be feeling guilty. It's not, it's who you are. What's your belief in God or your relationship with God is between you, God, and a tree stump. Nobody else is involved in that. And so I've always kind of lived my life in that vein, just because it really sums up a lot of relationships that we can have with a higher power or spirituality or with each other. Nobody else impacts that. And so that's kind of how I go about my life. And then, my dad thought he was a cowboy. He thought he was John Wayne. And so I was always afraid to come out to him. And when I finally did, he didn't care. And, I shouldn't have been afraid, but, my old redneck dad, I thought was going to hate me, and he didn't, and he loves me. And I think he actually likes my husband better than me. It's like the whole in-law situation. So they're buddies. And so it's been a great relationship.
Justin, do you think that that piece of advice that your dad gave you about spirituality, was he kind of telegraphing to you that you're safe and that it's okay?
Probably, but I was young and stupid and didn't see it
Look
that
at
way.
the leading the
Right.
witness.
Right. He sounds like a great guy. Anybody else have thoughts ready to kind of jump and answer? Or
Was
I
he
can call on you?
affirming to you? Is that why you came out to him? He was affirming, right? He was affirming your identity.
I guess the person in my life that I looked up to the most, I would say, is my older sister. I'm the youngest of three. I wasn't raised in the greatest home environment. And so my sister grew up really fast and pretty much raised my brother and I. And I was a huge tomboy and got really into basketball really young. And so I ended up getting into travel teams and competitiveness. And my sister was a basketball player too. And she saw that I was talented. And so she ended up kind of coaching me and getting me into these competitive leagues. And then I ended up traveling through the United States over the summer when I was like 12 and 13 and 14 years old. And she really kind of drove my success. And in doing that, I, ended up getting a full ride scholarship. And she really believed in me and really challenged me. And she was like that one person that I could kind of tell everything to without judgment, which was really interesting because she was actually the last person I told when I came out. And I didn't know I was gay growing up. I actually didn't come out until I was like 20 years old. It wasn't until I was in college that I even had an idea that I was gay. I was in high school. I was junior prom queen. I was dated all the older high school boys and long curly blonde hair. I was completely different than what I look like now, which is really interesting because when I went through what I did in college, I kind of found myself. And that, I think that was the really trueness of going like, oh, I like wearing these clothes and I like feeling this. And oh, I finally, wow, I feel like me. And my sister really kind of drove that. And so she ended up actually being the last person. And when she asked me why, I told her the reason why is because I never had to worry. So I
Oh,
never
that's
had to worry.
awesome. That's awesome. I love that relationship with your sister. And actually, what honor to be last place on your list for that. I'm sure, I hope she felt gratified by that.
Yeah, she for a long time she was like, I don't get it. I kind of just waited and waited. And I was like, I just never thought I needed to tell you. It was just kind of, and you know, till this day, today's actually her birthday, but till this day, she's my confidant. I couldn't live this world without her.
Yeah.
She's my best friend.
Yeah, I
bet she feels
don't
the same way.
I don't know about that
Yeah.
coaster trek. This is in
Thanks for
California, so
sharing
who
that.
knows?
Let's see. How about you, Carl?
So I also didn't come from the best family life. I had to grow up very, very early. And I did not have any role models per se, but what I did have was school. School was like my retreat. And it was this place I went to and I learned very well. And as I got older and I realized that I was gay, the things I learned in science class about how to analyze and look helped me to accept it, helped me to realize I'm not confused. I haven't misunderstood it. It was just how school and always excelling at school, I was able to apply it. And I was able to, in a way, use my teachers as a role model because they always had answers. In school, you asked questions, they gave you answers. And the one thing it taught me was, I can find this answer. I will do it. If my teachers have answers to all of my questions, I will find an answer to this. And by the time I was 16, I knew that answer and I was comfortable with it. I understood it. Had accepted it. But I did wait till I was 20 to come out because I realized I wanted to, when you leave high school, you start a new life. You know, you leave that life behind you and you start your adult life. And I decided when I was 16, that's what I would do because I knew I wanted to leave my hometown. I knew I wanted to, you know, start a new life. So I said, I'll just do it all at once. And I did. So when I graduated high school and I started my new life, that's exactly what I did. And I was lucky. I came out to everybody at once. I did not do it in piecemeal. And I had this attitude, if you don't like it, too bad, because I've accepted it. And that's what matters to me. I'm doing it just to let you all know, because I have a feeling you all have questions, but I'm not doing it for me. I am comfortable with who I am. And it went over very, very well.
Wow, I'm glad to hear that. That's a good coming out story. I love how logical and rational you are. Like, I'm moving out for college anyway, so I'm just going to change everything wholesale. That makes sense. That's what I'm going to do. And then the confidence that you had in yourself to not be concerned about what everybody thought, that was extraneous to you and your identity. I think that's pretty commendable.
Yeah.
How about you, Nick?
Sure. Nerd alert. So I grew up in Southern Illinois, in a small agricultural community. And so where I went to seek my mentors was science fiction, and specifically Star Trek. I grew up watching Star Trek, the original series, with my grandfather, and it was the crew of the Enterprise that really inspired me.
Yeah, I
specifically
feel like
Spock.
she's
He's
like
who
a
inspired me to go into science,
facilitator or something. This
'cause I
is like
wanted
what
to be
I
a
used to
science
do.
officer.
By the way,
As an
this is like, as a corporate trainer, this is like the easiest type of facilitation because you get paid thousands of dollars to just like literally go in a room and be like, and what do you think? And what do you think? And what do you think? And how do you feel about that? I swear it's like, it's God, why did I give up corporate training? God, I need to go back. I would be now. I should start marketing anti-woke corporate training services because now I would be like the most fire corporate trainer that has ever been a corporate trainer. And be like, let me tell you what, we're gonna do the anti-DEI. Maybe I should do that. Should I do that? Maybe I should do that.
adult, George Takei now, who played Sulu, being an out gay man, advocating for our rights, but also like learning about his history and how he lived through the internment camps. And just, it's an inspiring and incredible story. So I always find inspiration from Star Trek and like hope, definitely hope. So
I love that. I loved Star Trek when I was a kid too. The original series, like the 60s.
who is your favorite?
Oh, Spock. Oh, it was so funny. I enjoyed that a lot.
I've never watched
So
Star
that's a
Trek
great inspiration
to
for
this
your
day.
science. your work
Never
in the
watched
science
it.
field.
Unfortunately, we have to feel the emotions though.
Yeah.
Except for the new movies. I did watch
Well,
the
that
newer
was his one
movies.
failing, in my opinion. But, yeah, thank you. That's great. Great story.
Maybe I should do anti-woke corporate
So,
training.
let's see. The person that I looked up to most was my sister Maria. She wasn't the oldest, but I come from a family of 11. So
Wow.
yeah, so
I'm just saying
the
for everybody, wow.
yeah. So the older siblings my mom had me when she was 44. So they were already gone and married. And so then there was like a second set of siblings, and that was Maria and then my brother and other sisters. And, so Maria was like our second mom for the younger siblings. As soon as she could work, she started working, and she started buying my sister and I, the younger ones, our school clothes. Because before that, it was just hand-me-downs. And I remember, thanks to Maria, we got our new clothes, for school, and it was just so exciting. She was the first to attend college, and she became an RN. And so she moved to San Francisco, and I would visit her there, and I just thought she was so cool. And I knew she was gay when I think it was about 11 or 12 when I found out. Her coming out was horrible.
Oh,
It was just horrible. Um,
I'm so sorry.
But thankfully, our mom changed. So I know it's possible, but it was tough. And I remember thinking at 11, I didn't understand what she could have done that deserved what she got, because I saw the beating. But anyway,
Really?
like I said, our mom changed.
Wow.
And she evolved.
I guess I
So
shouldn't
then
be
when I came out
surprised.
at
Latino
28,
families.
she still had a hard time, and I had a really hard time. Probably one of my lowest points was when I came out. Not probably, it was. More so because I had a son, and I didn't know how I was going to tell him one day. And my mom wasn't handling it well again with me. Not as bad as with my sister, but it was still difficult, and other family members as well. And so yeah, it was quite challenging. But then things got better, and when I did finally tell my son, it was so cute because it was during the time that all the talk about Ricky Martin was going on. And we're sitting there watching TV. I think he must have been about 9 or 10. And something on the TV came on about Ricky Martin. And he said, Mom, I just don't understand. And I thought, oh. And he said, I don't understand why it's anybody's business. And I was like, oh, okay, here's my chance. And so I said, well, Anthony, there's something I need to tell you. And it was just amazing. It was unforgettable. He hugged me and said, Mom, I love you no matter what. It doesn't matter.
If it's not anyone's business, then why are our taxes paying for this panel? Listen, I'm on board with it's no one's fucking business. I am on board with it is no one's business who you sleep with. It is no one's business who you love. It is no one's business who you like. None of this is anyone's business. But if it is no one's business, then why are our tax dollars paying for this exercise?
And it was like after that, everything just,
How old was
got
he
better.
at the time?
He was about 9 or 10, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
And was this around the time that you also came out? to your mom, or was there
Exactly.
some
No, there
lapse there?
were, yeah, when I came out, well, I was basically outed, but
Oh.
yeah, he was only 4.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mhm.
And your sister Maria, she helped you through that time?
So my sister Maria helped me a lot during that time. She was my advocate. I mean, she was basically the one that would talk to Mom and say, it's going to be okay, calm down. She's still her, she's still your daughter, and that sort of thing. But yeah, I was so thankful. And Maria still lives now she lives in Daly City with her spouse, and she's retired now. They're both retired now. And yeah, we're still close.
I'm sorry for that trauma that you had to go through and your sister had to go through.
Yeah, it was difficult.
Yeah.
For sure.
But what a great kid Anthony is.
He is. He still is. He's amazing.
Trey, were you going to say something? I saw you kind of lean forward.
I was just gonna say, being outed is hard. I was outed too, and it's difficult, and it's a traumatic experience because it's not on your terms, and when you're going through the process of trying to understand what you're going through internally, it's a struggle, and so you want to be able to kind of face the world when you're ready, and when you're outed, it's kind of thrown in your face. And then when you're going through family trauma too, which I was similar, it's even tougher
It
because
was,
now
yeah.
you don't have your family there to kind of back you when you're ready to kind of deal with the world. And so I was going to say, like, I applaud you for sticking strong and hanging in there, and
You.
way to go, kid. You
Thanks.
got a strong kid there.
Yeah, yeah. And that's what I would like to say also, is that it's so important to remember to be kind to people, because nobody knew at the time what I was going through. Nobody. My sisters, my coworkers, nobody knew, that I was suicidal. Nobody knew that. And so, had anybody at work or somewhere else had done something even more, something else on top of that, I don't know how much more I could have taken. So, that's what I was just going to point out, is that just be kind, because you don't know what somebody's struggling with and what they're going through, and your words can really impact them and make a difference, good or bad. So
Thanks for that reminder. Yeah. This is a different conversation, I feel like, than other panels. It feels just more emotional. So I want to thank you extra for your vulnerability and coming and talking this way with all of us. So I'll segue to my next question. It's Pride Month. It is a time to celebrate and a time of joy. And there's always, of course, this undercurrent
Fair point.
of a very difficult history, personally, culturally, socially, but it's nice to focus on the joyful aspect when everybody comes together. But I do want to ask, like, what does Pride Month mean to you? What does it mean to you personally? I'm going to start with you, Carl.
Well, when I came out as gay, one of the very first things I started learning was about gay history. I had people older than me around me who were out, and so they taught me about things like Stonewall. They taught me about classical Hollywood. They taught me how to watch movies in a different light and pick up gay references. And I quickly learned, the people who came before me, what they had to go through. I was able to be out and not be in jail without a criminal record as a sodomite or whatever it was, depending on the state. So for me, Pride Month was important.
Just for the record, and I'm saying this just as like a corporate trainer who knows how much these things cost. Minimally, this panel, like doing this exercise, probably cost the taxpayers several $1,000s. It might even be as high as, like, depending on what else was going on, it might even be like in the 5 figures that this panel cost.
Because it was something I had that so many people before me didn't. They never had any outlet whatsoever. It had to be silent. I didn't have to worry about being fired from my job. And also for me, because at the time that I came out, there were not a lot of gay rights. Yes, California was safer than most, but we did not have equality. So for me in the beginning,
not
gay pride
including the pay
was
of the
about
people.
that fight for that right. And I was a big part of that. And that's what it represented for me. And now that within California, we do have a lot of equality. It's not perfect, but I have so many friends that are out in all of their jobs. Everyone I know has gay friends that they love and adore. I do not know anyone who is uncomfortable with members of the community. That's not the case everywhere. And so when I go to Pride now, I think this is fun for me, but I know in other parts of the country, it's still a fight because they don't have their rights yet. They're still fighting both for cultural change in the communities that they live in, and they're fighting for the legal protections that I have as a privilege here. And in the last few years, I have done more talking with people who live in other countries, specifically in the Middle East, and I learned just how lucky I had it. I've met people who've seen their friends burned alive, who've seen them thrown off buildings, stoned to death, all for being gay, things that I never had to fear because I was so lucky to live here. So for Pride, I really appreciate it because I know out there in the world, there are so many people who are terrified because they know if anyone ever finds out the truth, it will cost them their life. So Pride to me does represent freedom and a privilege. It is a privilege to be accepted. It is a privilege to have your rights. They just don't get bestowed like a magic wand. They had to be fought for. And a lot of people had to die to get them. So I'm very grateful for that.
Wow. And thank you for being a part of that fight. And it sounds like you were an activist, like not just an advocate, but an activist.
Stunning and
Yes.
brave and stunning and brave and
You say
stunning and
brave?
brave and
Nope.
stunning and
I am
brave.
not.
Okay. But I'm sure you were
One day.
you were a part of that movement for gay marriage.
I did.
In California.
I protested at the Capitol for gay marriage rights back in 2007, 8. I was no on Prop 8. I volunteered for that campaign. Yes.
Wow. Thank you.
Mhm.
Justin, what does Pride Month mean to you?
Oh, so many things. I mean, very similar to Carl, because Carl and I are actually very close in age. So we saw a lot of the same things
this is a good
growing
point,
up as
Milo.
young gay kids, with people being murdered or hurt. The pushback on same-sex marriage, Prop 8, similar to Carl. I also went out and protested that. We protested some preachers that were doing the fire and brimstone, kind of contrary to what I just talked about my dad saying that you're going to go to hell because of who you love, which never made sense to me. But I guess kind of that's the broad scale, but on a micro scale, it's, just the freedom to be me, the freedom and privilege
I'm not
to
sure they
be
actually said her
unapologetically
name.
who I am and not be afraid of backlash.
Oh, we can
Like
find
I
that
mentioned,
information if we want to.
my dad was very accepting, but my mom wasn't at all. And it's because her brother was gay and died of AIDS in the early 90s. And so she was always terribly afraid that her son was going to wind up the same way. And I never actually formally came out to my mom up until the day she died. And so that's always sat with me. And when she passed away and when I had the courage to come out to my dad, pride gave me the strength to feel like, I can't hide who I am anymore. It's stupid, it's detrimental, and it's not healthy to hide who I am just to make other people happy. And I mean, I was a victim of violence. I was gay bashed in the early 2000s, very badly here in Sacramento. That kind of stuff.
Well,
just
I mean,
is
this
not happening.
is a fair question, and this is an honest question, and I say this as someone who's straight, even though people think I'm a lesbian, but I'm not. Like, I wonder, like, do people really have bad experiences coming out to their parents anymore? I mean, I understand it's this whole kind of like rite of passage in the gay community, and I kind of get that, but how many, like, what percentage of people really actually have bad experiences, or is this? And I'm sure there are ones. Well, I'm sure there are one or two. Like, I'm sure there are people who still like are not accepted by their parents and all that stuff. But it's kind of like, is it more just fear mongering, like riling people all up, saying like you're gonna have a bad experience, like making them being afraid of what's gonna happen when they come out? Or is it generally just like pretty kind of like, yeah, I'm gay, and they're all like, we know you're gay? Because I feel like parents always know. I mean, it's kind of one of those things. It's kind of like, unless they're really detached from what's going on, it's like, hey, I'm gay. Hey, thanks for telling us. We always knew you were, like, sort of thing.
Now, and it's because we've fought hard and had conversations
Exactly.
and helped people realize that even though we love somebody of the same
So
sex.
then the question becomes, why is everyone fear mongering about like the process of coming out and the scary process? And I I mean, I don't know. Why is that? Why are they characterizing it as something that's, worthy of that much fear? Her name is Christine Birdsong. All right, well, go look up her website, bot. Birdsong, Native American, Indigenous privilege.
Or you're transgender or non-binary or whatever the case may be, we're still people. We still have hearts and souls that are beneficial to the community, and we're part of the fabric of what this country is. And I think by having those conversations, with kind of the strength that pride gives us, it does change hearts and minds, and that's been the whole goal all this time. And now I'm proud I can say I've been with my husband for 21 years. We got together when I was 19. We're going on 11 years of marriage. We're an old married couple at this point because we're now officially over 40, both of us. And we bicker in the stores just like an old married couple would. It's hilarious. And we have the right to do that now. Back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, even up through parts of the 90s, people didn't have that. You had to pretend it was your roommate, right? And it just is not, it's not that way anymore. And so that's kind of where my headspace is when we talk about pride, is where we were, where we've come, what we've fought for. And while we still have to have these conversations, right? It's okay, because it's continually making those changes to people's hearts and minds that's going to keep us moving forward and continue to afford us the same and equal rights as everybody else in this country. And also recognizing, like what Carl said, that not everybody has this privilege, and we do. And that's such a monumentous thing to recognize. Because I don't think I think some people don't get that, right? Because there's been a lot of people who have fought, and I think we need to do more during Pride Month to educate where we were as opposed to where we are now.
Yeah. Well said, Justin. Thank you. That was interesting what you said about your mom too, and her inability to be accepting. And it was because of fear. She was worried about you. And you kind of think like, well, that's all the more reason to kind of double down on your love and your acceptance. But
Because they've been
it's really
indoctrinated
impossible
into a
to
cult,
walk in
Milo.
other shoes and really understand how deep that fear of hers must have been. But I'm sorry that that was an obstacle in your relationship with each other. Damoon, did we get a comment?
I've got it right here.
Oh.
Julie says, the time of they were roommates. We really have come a long way.
Yeah.
Thank
we
you,
have.
PNW.
have.
Appreciate it.
I've totally forgotten like who I've asked and who I haven't. Is it everybody? Has everyone had a chance on what Pride Month? Pride Month. What does Pride Month mean to you, Trey?
I'm gonna just piggyback, I guess, on what they said. I mean, I can kind of add to the early 2000s, kind of like Justin. I was hackled, I was abused, beat up, sexually assaulted.
Hang on. Alexis says, can I float the idea that the promised coming out trauma goes hand in hand with the idea that your parents can't be trusted to advocate for you? Yeah, I think this is a really good point, because that really is an anti-parental rights ideology, right? Where they're trying to convince kids like your parents aren't safe, your parents aren't going to love you, your parents aren't safe, your parents aren't going to love you. And then kids get themselves all worked up because they haven't developed the logic reason function of their brain yet. They're like, oh my God, this is going to destroy everything. My life is going to be over, like all this stuff. And so like it kind of perpetuates. And then that causes all sorts of problems where the kids go to the teachers and they're like, I can't trust my parents. They aren't going to love me anymore if I tell them, even though the kids have like worked up this scenario in their own heads when usually there's no basis for it in reality. And the reason they've done it is that adults have put this in their head that like, your parents aren't going to love you if you come out as queer. It's really fucked up what they're doing to these kids. Like it's they're basically mind fucking these kids to turn them against their parents, when in fact, if they did just come out to their parents and they said, I like boys or I like girls or I like both or like whatever the thing is, it's like it would probably be fine. In the vast majority of cases, it's going to be fine. But no, the teachers and all these other people rile the kids up until they really truly do believe that like my parents aren't going to love me, my parents aren't going to love me, my parents aren't going to love me. And yeah, then that creates trauma bonds. And that's when the real fun begins. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is your average GSA or Rainbow Club. Mac B, do you think the socialists will try something in the Olympics next month in Paris? I mean, they've already like I don't know. I'm sure I bet you there's going to be some big protest. I guess we'll have to see, but it's a good question, Mac B. We'll have to keep an eye out for that. Maybe we can ask. Yeah, we should ask Joshua tomorrow night for sure. Why not?
All for being gay, all in Sacramento. And to see the movement of where it's been from early 2000s when all that kind of was going on to where we are now is huge. Unfortunately, it's not, I kind of wanted to add what pride means to me, because it's not there yet, because that still happens to me. You know, it's still, I get kicked out of bathrooms and, you know, I get hackled in liquor stores and so we're not totally there. I do hear that we're better, and yeah, I can say we're better because I'm not going through what I went through in the early 2000s, but it still happens. And it happens to the point where when my wife and I go to like Lake Tahoe, she won't let me go to the bathroom by myself. So we're there. But I think that's why pride means something to me, is because I can stand up and I can continue in June to say, I'm still walking. I'm still here. No one's pushed me down. No one's pushed us down. It's a month where people that have gone through things, because my story is just a little part. And there's people who've come before us and who's, you know, done and gone through things that I can't even imagine, who's been able to give us the ability to breathe and the ability to walk these parades. And so when I think about June, I just think of we're celebrating them, and we're celebrating the fight, and we're celebrating these other states that, kind of what Carl was saying, that are still fighting to even have an inch of what we have today and here in California. And my mom, I'm going to say this story just because it just happened. My mom lives in Florida, and she just came here. She was here for 3 weeks, and my sister was over at my house. I was having a barbecue, and my mom looks at me, and she's a snowbird because she's from Maine, but she does the Florida in the winter and the Maine in the summer. And so she goes, "Hey Trey, why aren't you or when are you ever going to come to Florida?" And my sister and I looked at her, and I go, "Mom, you'll never see me in Florida. Like, if you're going to see me, you're going to see me in Maine." And she's like, "Well, I don't understand why." And again, role model, my sister looks at her and goes, "You can't say gay. Like, why would your daughter go to a place where she's not accepted?" And it just goes to show,
So now we know that California state workers are so intelligent that they don't bother to read bills that are passed in other states, and they just listen to liberal media and their interpretation of those bills, and they really believe that there is a bill that says you can't say gay in Florida, and that impacts all gay people in Florida. These are state workers, man. You think, like, if anyone knows how to read bills, it probably should be state workers.
where my mom's mind's like, I don't know. She looks at me, she goes, "Well, I don't believe that." And it's like, we just have a long ways to go.
Yeah.
And so but that's what pride means to me,
Yeah.
is that
Yeah. The fight and how
the
much more
fight
there
and
is
just
to do.
yeah, well, and just where we're at now, and the people that came before us that have fought to even get us here, but we still have the fight to go. And that's what pride is, and that's what the Pride Month means, is we're still fighting.
Yeah.
You think of Black History Month, we're still fighting, and so that's what June is.
Yeah.
We're still fighting.
Yeah. Reminding of who you're fighting with and who you're fighting for,
Yes.
and helps marshal everybody's strength.
Yeah.
Because it's got to be exhausted, Trey. I can't imagine. What's that like for you to walk through life and feel vulnerable like
Yeah.
that, or to have a shield on?
Hang on, we got a super chat coming in from Kazmar. Do they still have their religious conversion camps? That's a good question. I feel like that was probably outlawed in a lot of places, but I'm sure like stuff like that does probably still exist somewhere. That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. If anyone else knows the answer to that, please put it in the chat. And thank you for the $10 super chat. I appreciate it.
Wherever you go.
You just said it's shield. So I love artwork. It's part of the reason why I'm tattooed up. But I will tell you that
No,
back
you're a
in
socialist.
the 2000s, when I started getting
You don't have good
I
tattoos,
realized
girl.
that it made people be a little bit more intimidated by me, and so I used it to my advantage. And I'm actually probably one of the softest people you ever meet, but I like to use my tattoos as making me look a little bit more intimidating, because it will keep people away from me. And so I kind of give a look, because I can feel them. And I can feel that the hate sometimes come to me, and so it's a protective shield for me. Yeah.
Thank you, Trey.
For me, Pride Month means visibility. We're everywhere. And seriously, it's like, by being visible and being out, we can show other community members who we are, and that often breaks down barriers. I'm reminded, and I don't want to state bash, but I'm so grateful to live here, because I have a friend and a couple other good friends in Colorado, and they're afraid to fly the pride flag right now, because there are individuals in the community that are the burning of the flag. And I can say,
what? Bro. If your friends in Colorado are afraid to fly the pride flag in Colorado, they are fucking retarded. Colorado is woke AF. Colorado has legitimate socialists in their state legislature. There is no part that Colorado is one of the epicenters for attacks on parental rights, for gender ideology in the public university system, in the public school system. There is nothing that is conservative about Colorado. Like, if they that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. Hang on. Carlin, when you set this up, did you realize how nice your black shirt would play in with the black shirt, with her black shirt, which plays in with the black line? I did not think that far ahead, but thank you for the compliment. But I guess we are kind of wearing like this. I'm actually wearing a rare V-neck black shirt, I suppose. That's not going to be tight enough for the people who just are desperate to call me fat on the internet, but that's all right. They'll have to survive.
That I'm proud, I mean, my partner's proud that we fly the pride flag on our house here in June. And last June, when we took it down at the end of June, and when we went to July, our neighbors came over and asked, they wanted to make sure everything was okay and that no one had harassed us for flying that. And that, I think, is a beautiful thing of living where we do and a beautiful thing of living in California, because we do have it a lot better off than other community members. But visibility, yeah.
That's interesting what you say.
Listen, I think that people are born gay. I'm not going to buy into this. I think people are born gay. They're born gay, they're born straight, they're born with proclivity. I actually think that most people are some variation of bisexual. And most people are like, you know, like very okay, so for example, like I make fun of people, like they call me a lesbian like all the time when I'm really not a lesbian. I've never slept with a girl, I've never done any of that. But I kissed a girl one time that was in college. It wasn't my fault. She kissed me. But there absolutely have been like women every once in a while that I've been like attracted to that I'm like if I'm not desperately afraid of eating pussy, maybe I would. And I think that that's true with like and men are going to be much more reticent to admit this, but I've definitely talked to men where it's like they're straight, they like chicks, they like pussy, they like all this stuff. But every once in a while, like maybe it's like one of those things, or maybe if they haven't have enough beers, it's like I think most people are like on some sort of spectrum like that. But I don't buy this bullshit of like you can nurture someone into like liking certain things. Were you nurtured into liking the things that you like sexually? That just doesn't make any sense. For boring old for boring old vanilla heterosexuals, were you nurtured into just liking the missionary position under the blanket with the lights off and like all this stuff? It doesn't. And if you weren't nurtured into that, then why would you assume that someone else is nurtured into something else? So that's kind of my opinion on it. But people are welcome to disagree with me. I don't really think it matters.
About visibility, because when I was getting ready for this, I did a quick internet search, like LGBTQIA+ in agriculture, in farming. Nothing. I got a little something came up on kind of the ag census, and USDA doesn't ask what orientation or gender really, but the one researcher tried to dig down a little deeper and looked at like, okay, farms owned by two people who are married. What's the professed gender of those two people? And so that's
I have no idea, Coaster Truck.
Some gay farm owners in the United States, totally undercounted, of course. But I thought like that was the rabbit hole that I went down when really I was just looking for like contributions. And so visibility is important. So maybe next year when I check, there'll be some names out there that I can praise and rise up because I know they're there, but it's the visibility.
They're there.
Yeah, for sure. And doing great things. Yeah. Leticia.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because I did a Google search and I typed in pride in agriculture, and up comes this person's website, and it was just amazing. In fact, they are going to do a lunch and learn this month for CDFA on the 27th, I believe. So there'll be an email going out about that.
Okay.
Yeah, and they highlight people LGBT.
Yeah, we're going to be doing the Zoom soon. Don't worry.
In various states. Some are going to be from, I think the two speakers that are going to join this person are from California. So yeah, visibility is so important. I wish Pride Month is everything that all the panelists said, it's visibility. It's fun, like the Pride is fun. The festival, the parade is a lot of fun, but it's also remembering who fought for us and who lost their lives to fight for our rights. And it's just, reflecting on all of that. But what I would like to see is organizations like FFA and 4-H having booths at festivals, at gay pride festivals, and marching with us, and, representation like that. It would be amazing, because then it would trickle down to these rural communities where, we really need to promote, LGBTQ farmers so that they can continue the work and feel safe doing the work. Because it's really scary for them, I'm sure. I mean, I can't imagine. And like Trey said, my wife is very butch. So she walks around and everybody knows she's gay, or they mistake her for a guy. I don't, one of the two. But, she gets asked to leave women's bathrooms because they think she's in the wrong bathroom and that sort of thing. And there's times where we'll be walking down the street and I see the look. And it's scary because you just never know when somebody's going to, actually act upon that anger. But yeah, so it's just important to have good representation, you know, at these Pride festivals, and we just need to really push for that, and hopefully we can get some more ag out there.
Yeah.
Wait, so
I
are they
love that we have a CDFA group.
are
and-
they actually talking about having a state represent like a state like a Department of Food and Agriculture representation at Pride festivals? So now not only are they spending the taxpayer money on this whole on this whole panel discussion in general, they're talking about using taxpayer money to go and have a presence at Pride festivals around the state of California. Yeah, that definitely seems like a good use of it.
Pride Parade. And I think the year I did, the year
like I'm
before last,
flatter.
we were the only state agency. And I thought, and ag gets a rap for being fairly conservative. And yet we were the state agency that was out there showing support.
Oh, they
So I was
already
really
are at
proud,
Pride
and I'm
festivals. Oh,
bummed
that's
I
great.
missed it this year. It looks like it was amazing.
Yes, in fact, when we did have a booth, the year we had a booth, we had several people come up to our booth and basically say, "We're shocked you're here. We're thankful, but we're really shocked you're here."
Yeah.
So yeah, we need to get out there.
Well, keep them on their toes. huh?
Wow.
Do I have time for one more question or? Oh, okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Got one comment in the chat that says, depends where in California. We have a lot of unfriendly folks where I live. There are many, I'm assuming LGBTQ IA groups on social media and ag oriented social media channels. Y'all have allies all around
Thanks,
you
Tom.
here at CDFA. We got your back. Thank you for your strength and honesty. Thank you for
Appreciate
sharing
it.
your stories. And then we've got one more. I hopped on late, but question for the panelists, if you're
Yeah,
good with
sure.
that. Question here is, how do you respond to pride in places that unfriendly people think prides doesn't belong in? For example, pride in sports, communities or hobbies, or pride in agriculture or any other workplace for that matter.
Oh, wow. Hang on. Chad caught this. Check this out. She said she wanted Future Farmers of America, FFA, at Pride festivals. Those are high school kids. Yeah. That's right. So that would be the connection, isn't it? So this is about the FFA, high school kids participating in Pride festivals around the state of California. What could possibly go wrong?
Oh, I said prides is actually supposed to be pride. I feel like I see this all the time, unfriendly or unkind comments where people say, why can't we just leave gender or pride out of it? That's all I've got.
Anyone?
Guys, I know we're running a little late. I just want to hear the answers to this question, and then we'll wrap up and do the Zoom call. So we might start the Zoom call like 5 minutes late or so, but we're gonna wrap this up.
Want to take a swing at that? And I'll include you too, Justin.
Yep, 4H2
Can I be
probably for
mad?
20 Kelly.
Yes, please.
No, I have a really hard time with that because I think that's where the fight is, right? And so I think the response is that that's where you get your allies, that's where you get your people, and that's where the fight begins. That's where we as a group come in and we go, we're not going to have people shut us up anymore. And without having the people that are there to fight, we're not going to move forward. So when you have those places, when you had and I forget, because I don't think it was necessarily the parade, but Placer County in Placerville, when you had, I think they did a march, if I remember correctly, but they were like kind of coming at the LGBTQ plus community and kind of saying they were going to kill us. I mean, it was actually really bad. They were going to like run us over and things like that. And I remember that in Nevada City too, it was pretty big. And then you had the Yuba City thing happen. But I think that's where we get our allies and we fight back and we tell them, you're not your threats, you trying to scare us, you're not going to shut us up. And by you saying, well, we're not threatening you or we're not coming at you, we just don't think it needs to be talked about. That's where we say, well, we don't need to talk about it, but we need to say something. We need it to be accepted and we need it to be noticed and valued because we are human and we are valued.
Yeah.
So I get irritated.
Good. You should. We all should.
My response to them is, well, first of all, I'm not the biggest person on labels, and pride is a type of label. And I don't care what it is, sports, whatever. When you don't like what your city is doing, you go down to City Hall and you toot your own horn. We're doing nothing different. When we want something changed with sports or we want public restroom accommodation, we're doing nothing different than the rest of you. And that's how I look at it. And that's what I tell them. You put a label on it called pride, but all
This
we're
guy's
doing is
so
the exact
angry.
same thing you do when you don't like how things are and you want it changed. And that's how I deal with those people is I shove it back in their face.
I
Very
don't think
practical and
that's
logical. I like that.
I
about
don't
you.
think that's effective to be angry, but okay.
So I would respond to it going back to what I said earlier, is about visibility for me. And it's to show the community that it is diverse, whether it's in agriculture or there's a rural community. For example, so I'm a white male and I have privilege because of that.
Oh my
But
God.
you don't necessarily, I mean, I wear my rainbow bracelet on my watch specifically to be out. But if I take that away, you don't necessarily know that I'm gay unless I come out. And so then I start to give up that privilege. But it's to let the community know that we're present, whether you like it or not. And our communities are diverse. And if we don't show ourselves, then that continues, that people don't know we exist. And, you know, I think back to when I was in a younger me in high school and seeing the Pride Parade and seeing people that are happy and have found love with their partners was really incredibly important to me, because it gave me hope that one day I could find that too. And I think we have to think about things like that, and that's why it's important.
I don't have a whole lot to add. I mean, they basically covered everything, but yeah, it's important again, because it helps that young person that's struggling with, you know, who they are and whether they're going to be accepted or not. It helps them know that they have a future and that they are worthy and that they are loved and accepted. And so, yeah, it's important so that our youth can have that, that inspiration from someone who's like them.
I think I would say the same thing to this as Leticia, wherein I think it all comes down to the youth and letting them know that there is normalcy in this community, right? We're not going away. You know, and what I kind of tell people, kind of in the same vein as Carl, is, well, if you don't like it, you don't need to celebrate it, right? It's not something that you have to be there for if you don't like it. But people who are allies, people who are part of the community, it's for us to get together and you know, we're here, we're queer, we're not going anywhere, right? And so just a quick anecdote, because I know we're going over time. My next door neighbor, when I used to live in Vacaville, very, very conservative. He was military. He was a little older than me. I would hear him drop the F word slur all the time. Like he thought he hated gay people at the time. But we would have conversations with him because really, I don't know that he felt that way so much as he was expected to feel that way or to say those things to be cool, right? And so we got to know this person very, very well. And we got the opportunity to just kind of explain ourselves and why it's important to us and why we celebrate the way we do and why we have a right to live the way we see fit. He ultimately sold his house and moved away, but before he moved away, he made a point to come over and talk to us. And he said, you know, you guys changed my entire view on the LGBTQ community, 100%, in the way that you spoke to me about it. You didn't get angry. You explained things to me in a way that, you know, beforehand I was raised to think you guys were abominations and not human. And living next to you guys for the last, I think it was there for like 8 years or so. You guys are human and you deserve to live your life and be happy, and you should be afforded all the rights afforded to anybody else. And I think that that's, you know, the conversations that should have in these forums is, you don't need to celebrate it with us, but understand why we are entitled to, you know, freedom and the rights we have to be who we are.
Wow. Changing hearts, changing minds.
All right, guys, that's basically it. So we're going to wrap it up. So kind of a boring panel, but I did want people to see this. No like big kind of like wow moments, no like struggle sessions, sadly, but we did know that the California Department of Food and Agriculture is actively working to get Future Farmers of America, which probably means the 4-H groups too, which are middle and high school children, at Pride festivals in California, and the California taxpayers paying for it. Congratulations, California, leading the way as always. But guys, we do have to head into our supporter Zoom call. Now, if you've never been to a supporter Zoom call with me and you would like to join us, what I want you to do is head over to the Substack, which is Carlyn, Karlyn, .substack.com. We do supporter Zoom calls every Monday at 7 p.m. So I'm a couple minutes late, but everyone's going to forgive me. It'll be fine. I started on time for once. Head over to the Substack, carlyn.substack.com, link in the description below. And what I want you to do is go to this copy of the Unwoke Roundup email that just went out last night. And when you get there, scroll all the way down to the bottom. And underneath this red box here for supporters for $8 a month, $80 a year, you will find access to the Zoom links for Monday and Wednesday. You will also find access to the supporter Discord, and then you can come and join us. And we're going to be having a little chat for a while. So I will see supporter, and I will be posting the link in Locals as well. If you're a supporter in Locals, I will be posting it over there, guys. If you're a supporter and you've never been to a Zoom call, come to a Zoom call. They're actually really fun. They're relaxing. We talk about a lot of stuff. You're going to get to meet other members of the community. It is that sometimes I brainstorm things and talk about things that maybe I shouldn't talk about, that maybe are behind the scenes stuff, and give you like sneak previews and stuff like that. So come hang out with us on a Zoom call for a little while. And, we can find the link over on the Substack if you want to do that. I will be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Please mount the like button on the way out the door. Please make sure you are subscribed and following on whatever platform you're following on. Thanks for hanging out, guys. We'll see you soon. Bye.